finally notching her first 2024 win with a victory in Washington, D.C. Nikki Haley continues crisscrossing the country, hoping to spark a bit of momentum in a Republican primary race that looks all but over.
We had 14 people in the race. I defeated a dozen of the fellas. I just have one more fella I got to catch up to.
Almost 10 contests in, former President Donald Trump is dominating, leaving Haley, his one-time UN ambassador and last remaining rival, struggling to keep up.
Nikki Haley's campaign has become a living, breathing Babylon Bee article. Let's just let this play for 2 more seconds. I have to see a little bit more of this.
Still, she declares she's in it to win it, at least through Super Tuesday, when 16 states cast ballots March 5th.
That's tomorrow, people. Super Tuesday. Trump was supposed to be standing trial today. Not only is he not standing trial, oh my goodness, Nikki Haley has notched out her first W. In Washington, D.C., the only place where Nikki Haley can get the votes is in a Democrat corrupt cesspool of a district, that being the District of Columbia. And she touts it as a success, not realizing that it is basically the exemplification of what her campaign is. She's a Democrat in disguise. See, the only place where she can get the votes is in D.C. Oh my goodness! But the people out there are still saying the quiet part out loud. You had Mark Elias, who comes out and literally says, in a city of 700,000 people, Donald Trump got 676 votes in the GOP primary. A tough jury pool. Mark, do you appreciate what you just said there? I'm not sure that you do. What you basically said is that Trump stands no chance of getting a fair trial in D.C. Amazing. Oh, let's see here. She got her first victory. They're saying the quiet parts out loud in more ways than one. Hold on a second. Let me bring this down for 1 second. Bring this back up over here. Oh, no, I should have had this back in a little bit better order. Hold on 1 second. Oh, my goodness. Nikki Haley gets the victory in D.C. Where's the thing that I had up in the background? Oh, here we go. No lie with Brian Taylor Cohen. Holy cows, people. Brian Taylor Cohen. No lie with BTC, so you know it's going to be truthful. Wow, Nikki Haley just won her first primary, defeating Trump by a massive 30-point margin, 63 to 33% in D.C. This is going to send Trump into a meltdown. Everybody in the chat, I don't need to do a poll on this one. Is this going to send Trump into a meltdown? That the only place Haley can get a victory is in the corrupt Democrat cesspool of D.C. That says something, and it's not that Nikki Haley is going to win the GOP primary, that she has a chance of doing it. What it actually lends a little bit of credibility to, people, if it turns out to be the case and it actually happens, I'll be the smartest man on earth. It's not a real sincere prediction, so when it doesn't happen, don't say Viva made a prediction that didn't come true. They're going to 25th Biden, and it's going to go back to that whole argument. Well, who would be more popular among Democrats than Biden? The idea being you can't throw in Gavin Newsom because he's less popular. You can't throw in Michelle Obama because she's just not going to do it. Who's the other one that is less popular? Oh, yeah, that's right. Kamala Harris. Who would be more popular among the Democrats that could possibly fill Joe Biden's seat? Nikki Haley. I know it can't happen. It can't happen. But it might. One can hope. Oh, my goodness. But it's the Mark Elias coming out and saying, that's going to be a tough jury pool. Do you realize what you're saying, Mark? I mean, you must. Because we're saying the quiet part out loud. A tough jury pool. They like it. They like the fact that the system is actually just bent against Donald Trump. He doesn't care about Nikki Haley. He knows that Nikki Haley's got no snowball's chance in hell of getting the primary nominee. But look at this. This is how bad it's going to go for Trump in D.C. It's got a couple of cases there, but they might be heard later than sooner. Oh, I wanted to start with another video. But we'll get into that when we get into the subject matter of the day. I think I had a response to this. Let me see what my response was to that before we get in to the stories of the day, which are wild. Yes, I said in response to that, you approve of political bias that he can't get a fair trial in D.C. Congratulations. They love the injustice. They don't lament the injustice. They tout it out in the open so that you know you're not getting a fair trial in D.C., Trump. Mark Elias, who's been litigating these cases for, since 2016, actually. Oh, my goodness. All right. I was on Charlie Kirk earlier today. I was told that I might have been a little more hyper than normal. It's distinctly possible. I've been feeling a little bit more hyper than normal today, not because of the news. This is not like a victory lap. I think this is just one small victory in a long road to opposing a communist coup. Yes, well, that's what we're going to get to. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Good afternoon, everybody. We celebrated our 200th episode last night, Viva Barnes Law. We were, from what I understand, the 5th biggest stream in all of America last night. Pretty wild. Seemed okay to me. Good. No, I see. The thing is this: it seemed okay to me on Charlie Kirk. I get nervous when I know that I only have like 11 minutes of a spot because it's shorter segments. They can't just rant on forever. They've actually got commercials, ads. But I had to cram it all into the 6 minute and then the 6 subsequent minutes. Or it was 10 minutes, 6 minutes. I had to cram it in talking about Canada. Charlie Kirk asked me, why is it that Canadians put up with what's going on in Canada? And the short answer is, I don't know. The longer answer is, not everybody is putting up with it, but not everybody's fighting against it politically, peacefully, and the way it's supposed to be done. Oh, how many were watching last night? We were over 30,000 live viewers at one point in time. In fact, pretty much the entire time. Pretty wild. All right, so then I wasn't necessarily going to go live today. But then the news happened. Then I started reading the news. And then I realized on our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, we're doing the supporter chat where we're going to have an interview with one of our supporter members from vivabarneslaw.locals.com at about, I got to send out the link to another member of our community who's running for office in Nevada, and I don't want to get what she's running for wrong, but I've got to send her the notification. I'll do that in a bit. Hold on, let me do that right now. Let's go here. We've got a member of our community running for some form of government, some part of government in Nevada, and I said she can come on and announce it here. So let me just send that to myself, and then we're going to get started with the show for today, because you have a unanimous SCOTUS ruling. There's a little bit of a nuance to the unanimity of the ruling, but the meltdown is hilarious in a cynical sort of way, and the response is predictable. They won't stop. It's like can't stop, won't stop, they won't, until they successfully destroy what it means to be a constitutional republic. Copy link. Bring it over to Mrs. Fix-It. Here we go. Bada bing, bada boom, sent. All right, yeah, so the big news of the day is the Supreme Court ruling coming out of SCOTUS. It had not a dissenting opinion, but rather I don't know what they call it. Judges wanted to explain why they agreed with the decision as a whole, but disagreed with a portion of it. We're going to get there. Before we get there, let me just make sure that we are streaming across all aspects of the interwebs. We're live on YouTube, where we will not be for the entire time. We're live on Rumble. On Rumble, Jason of TGA says 9-0 with nuance. I'm intrigued. Dude, we'll get there in a second. And now I'm hearing an ad. So we're live on Rumble. Put on pause. And are we live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com? We are. And then the question is this. My audio is good. I'm listening to my audio and it sounds good on Rumble and on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. So we're good to go. Everybody, yes, unanimous, 9-0 with nuance. We'll get there. But before we get there, people, you might have noticed, let me just go back here and make sure, because I'm totally neurotic, that it says contains a paid promotion. Because it does. You might have noticed this stream contains a paid promotion. Because it does. Field of Greens, people. Brickhouse Nutrition. Share the screen. It's a little known fact. Share the screen. It's a little known fact that everyone is supposed to have between 5 and 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables daily. It's also a known fact that most people don't do that daily. This morning, I had cooked cabbage in eggs with some cheese. It was not the best thing I've ever made, and my wife is too polite to complain, but it's protein, it's vegetables, and it's breakfast. But most people do not have 5 to 7 servings of raw fruits and vegetables a day. They're not getting the nutrients, the antioxidants they need. What do you have to do? If you can't get your fruits and vegetables, and even if you can get your raw fruits and vegetables, get into a healthy daily habit of Field of Greens. It's a desiccated food. It's not a supplement. It's not an extract. Some people don't want to be told that they're going to have powdered greens. Have your regular greens as well. This is a healthy habit to get into. 1 spoonful twice a day. 1 spoonful is 1 serving of raw fruits and vegetables. 1 serving of fruits and vegetables, I should say, the best alternative to. Full serving of fruits and vegetables. Full serving of fruit. Antioxidant power, boosted immunity. Stir it up. 1 spoonful in a glass of water twice a day. Healthy habits, healthy alternatives, and it cuts out the crap. The toxic chemical crap that are diet drinks, which are not healthy at all. Power drinks, which are not healthy at all. You go to fieldofgreens.com. It brings you to Brickhouse Nutrition. Put in promo code VIVA. You'll get 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. All right, and the link is in the description. And thank you, Field of Greens. It's wonderful to actually have sponsors of stuff that I use and love myself. Bada bing, bada boom. For those of you who are new to the channel as well, just to explain the order of things, we start on YouTube, Rumble, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We then vote with our feet, vote with our dollars, and vote with our eyes, and come on over to Rumble, and we end it mildly prematurely on YouTube. These wonderful things here called Super Chats. YouTube takes 30% of those. So if you want to support the channel, the best way to do it is go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. You can choose to be a supporter. It's $10 a month, $100 a year. You can be a member that doesn't have to support. You get tons of stuff there, part of an above average community. And you can also give Rumble rants on Rumble. But this says, Sash Miel, I can't get my raw fruits and veggies because of the PennDep of the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. Oh, we're not far from full governmental control, people. All right, so we're going to start on YouTube and Rumble and vivabarneslaw.locals.com, and sooner than later, maybe within 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to end on YouTube. So the news of the day is that SCOTUS decision. Do I tease it all the way until we bring it over to, let me see that. Yes, comma, come in about 45 minutes to an hour, smiley face, or I'll text you. Okay. Let's see. Do I tease out the entire thing and we start with? Does everybody know what's going on in Canada? I'll talk about what I talked about with Charlie Kirk earlier today. It's the Bill C-63, which I think I'll highlight it here just to get a few of the highlights of Bill C-63, which I already talked about, made a separate standalone video, but it's worth reminding everyone in the States what happens when freedom of speech is eroded to the point of being criminalized, effectively. Bill C-63 is a law that is tabled in Canada. It's not a law yet, sorry. It's a proposed bill that has been tabled in Canada, which seeks to protect people from the harms of the internet. They call it the Online Harms Act because everybody has to think about the children. And what better way to protect the children than to add the term hatred to the criminal code to try to define hatred and to criminalize speech, tweets, and even retroactively. So Bill C-63, Online Harms Act, is supposed to enable platforms to remove, regulate, sanction objectionable content, that being like, CP and child exploitation stuff. It also ventures into the bullying and harassing, but I've got a theory about that. If you're that sensitive to bullying and harassing, you probably want to stay off the internet altogether. So they table this bill, Bill C-63, which empowers online platforms to more easily regulate, remove that type of content. At the same time, it amends the Human Rights Act in Canada to add hatred as aggravating factors. It offers a definition of hatred, which makes no sense at all. And it seems, it It seems upon a reading that it might retroactively criminalize objectionable tweets and social media content if the individual who has the power to remove that content from the internet doesn't, someone else retweets it or requotes it, and then it causes online harm. Let me get to Ezra Levant. Oh, this is section, one of the proposed amendments of the Act. It is a discriminatory practice to communicate or cause to be communicated hate speech by means of the internet or any other means of telecommunication in a context in which the hate speech is likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group of individuals on the basis of a prohibited ground of discrimination. For the purposes of section 1, subsection 1, a person communicates or causes to be communicated hate speech, so long as the hate speech remains public and the person can remove it or block access to it. To which Ezra Levant astutely observes, the bill would create a new section of the Canadian Human Rights Act. It says you're liable for anything you've ever posted if you have the power to remove it. It's not wrong. There was an even better one coming out of this act, just to raise a bit of awareness so that maybe Canadians can say, I don't trust the government with this much power. What are you going to do with all that power? And then an exchange that Ezra was having with, there was an exchange with Jordan Peterson, who was well ahead of the game in terms of raising the awareness and sounding the alarm on Bill C-16 back in 2016, where they added to the criminal code gender expression and gender identity as aggravating factors for hate crimes, among other things. Jordan Peterson said this is going to result in compelled speech. We are now entering the realm of not necessarily compelled speech, although if they say it's hate speech to not gender someone properly according to their preferred pronouns, that might be hate speech. So there's going to be compelled speech too, but there's going to be criminalized of any form of ordinary, what some might consider to be hate speech based on their not proclivities, but sensitivities. And this is what Ezra says to Jordan Peterson. For years, the Canadian Human Rights Act has banned discrimination against people of, quote, gender identity or expression. I covered a couple of these cases where there was a restaurant in British Columbia that was fined for misgendering an employee, a former employee. But this bill adds a new section 13 to the Canadian Human Rights Act, which now says the mere speech is considered discrimination if it is, quote, likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group. So for now, if someone watches you on YouTube video, reads one of your tweets, say transgender athletes changing in the girls' room, and as a result is, quote, likely to have hard feelings towards trans people, that's hate speech. And then what are they going to do? Exactly what they tried to do to Mike Ward. Weaponize the human rights tribunals as basically political lotteries, political piggy banks. They can get you up to $20,000 per complaint, and they don't have to be a victim. This is government like basically saying to everyone, go snitch on your neighbors. They only have to show that your tweet or video is likely to cause one person to have hard feelings about another person. $20,000 that you'd pay to the complainant, plus $50 in government fines per complaint. This is in the law, by the way. Like it's not in the law. It's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. This is what Canada's turning into under the Trudeau regime. It's an amazing thing. Like there's never been more regulation of speech, of online content. There's never been more government control. And is anyone in Canada better off for it? There's never been more stricter gun laws in Canada, and yet somehow miraculously, inexplicably, as the gun laws in Canada get tougher and tougher and tougher, as they have basically throughout the Trudeau regime, gun violence in Canada seems to go up and up and up under the Trudeau regime. Who could have thunk? Who could have found an explanation for any of this? Who the hell knows? Am I dual citizen? No, not yet. Is this a private member's bill? I would have to Google that before I answer the question. So I was on Charlie Kirk. He's taken an interest in this because freedom-loving Americans should take an interest in what's going on in Canada. To some extent, Canada is a bit of ahead of the game, so to speak, although commie California and commie New York are not far behind or maybe even on par with Canada. But you should pay attention to what's going on in Canada. When they talk about enacting hate speech laws in America, look at how they are being weaponized up in Canada or The prospect. It hasn't passed yet. It hasn't gone through second, third, fourth reading, Senate vote, speech and debate, or the public debate, public commentary. But they tabled this, and this is what the law actually says. The definition of hatred under this law. It's not LOL. It's actually wild. So that's what's going on in Canada. That's what I was talking about with Charlie Kirk. I hope I wasn't talking faster than I normally did, but I think I might have been. All right. With that sub-issue out of the way, we can start to think about potentially getting into the subject of the day, that being the SCOTUS decision. But before we do that, this is going to be like Jablinski Games. Before we do that, we're going to get to the gaming channel sooner than later. I saw this over the weekend, and I was surprised at some of the takes on this particular video. This is the video filed by admittedly annoying climate activist young people. It kind of looks like a young James O'Keefe for a second there, but this is the video that Climate Defense posted. Climate Defense is brand new youth-led group using direct action to resist fossil fuels. So regardless of how I feel about the organization, their tactics, whatever, this was the video that they put up, and I had issues with this.
Sold our futures, Joe Manchin. Sold our futures, and you've gotten rich doing it. You sick fuck. How dare you? You sold our futures.
I don't want to sit down somewhere, sit top.
I'm not going to sit down. You receive more funding than any other senator.
So I don't know how anybody watches that and does not conclude that that's just outright unjustified assault, however annoying, however irritating that kid was. I mean, the other thing is this. How much of a petty baby is Joe Manchin that being called a sick F-U-C-K, that then's fighting words for Joe Manchin. Then he gets up like a real man and has a young guy come between like a bar fight. Like, let me at him. Don't.
Joe Manchin. Sold our futures, and you've gotten rich doing it. You sick fuck.
Oh, how dare. Oh, what am I going to do? Someone stop me. Someone stop me. Someone stop me. Oh, yes, this guy. Sir, I'll handle this. Thank you. And look at the way he looks at him. Oh, my goodness. Nobody calls my daddy. It's not his son. It's a member that works on it. Nobody calls my big boss a sick. How dare you? And right now he knows. Look at this. Oh, look at this. That's not what you do, people. That guy is one head injury away from, pressed charges against him. I was a little surprised if there were people out there, because the guy was like taking credit for what he did. He's like, what do you say? Breaking. We just called Joe Manchin a sick F-U-C-K. We humiliated him in front of a herd of Harvard elites. He squared up. We held firm. Barbaric murderer. Hideous fiend. He tortures humanity and laughs. I mean, everything about that's laughable. But that doesn't mean that you throw a guy who's 150, 115, 120 pounds wet to the ground like that, because that dude hits his head and then you are in a heap of trouble. Big bad bodyguard man who throws him to the ground. But maybe I'm just getting sensitive in my old age. It's assault. Okay. It's see that, but then like, and it's a weird thing because you got a bunch of let's say conservative, peeps on Twitter. Whose side do you take on that? Do you attack the kid and protect Manchin? Do you attack Manchin and protect the Democrat activist? How dare you, Greta Thunberg kid? How dare you? Imagine shoving Greta. I mean, I'm not the meme master, so I wasn't going to do it. Plus, it could be deemed to be hate speech in Canada. Memeify Greta Thunberg's face on that kid. Like, how dare you? And then shove him to the ground. But no, I think that anyone who says that being called a sick F-U-C-K is fighting words, that is like tantamount to antagonizing a fight, disagree with. You're a politician. You have to deal with that. There was nothing that possibly warranted being violently thrown to the ground that we could see from that video. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they were doing something worse before. And what I found particularly irritating from some of the rationales was people saying, F around, find out. That guy F'd around, he found out. Well, that's unfortunately what a lot of people say about what happened to Ashley Babbitt in the Capitol building. That's what people say about a lot of what happened to the January 6ers in the Capitol building. So, got to be, you got, man up. Viva Manchin was in the right if you're a real man. I mean, they're good. So you're then one step away from beating January 6th protesters because they were messing around. So I'll respectfully and humbly disagree with you, but I don't think throwing a 21-year-old pipsqueak to the ground who's not showing any signs of violence to be a man. Actually, I think that's not being a man. But maybe I'm too sensitive of a man. Maybe I'm not a man at all. Who the hell knows? Okay, that's it. Enough with the teasing of whether or not we're going to get to the SCOTUS decision. We're going to get to it right after the... No, I'm joking. We're going to start it off with a video, and then we're going to go over to Rumble exclusively. The video, however, deals with this issue. Let me give everybody the link to Rumble. It's in the pinned comment. For those who don't know, SCOTUS came out today with a ruling that many people were predicting was going to be 9-0 in the Colorado removal from the ballot case. They came out with their ruling. People were predicting it was going to be 9-0, and it was 9-0 to the effect that, no, you scoundrelous, corrupt Supreme Court of Colorado, that's not the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court of Colorado, from what I understand, in a split decision among 7 Democrat judges, you knew... I mean, it was a split decision 4-3 to remove Trump from the ballot in Colorado because allegedly subsection 3 of Article 14, exclusion for insurrection, is a self-executing provision of law that needs no further act of Congress. Set aside the acquittal on the impeachment of insurrection. We'll set that aside for now. There were legal scholars putting forward this theory, defending it tooth and nail, promoting it with the full force of their status as constitutional scholars. They've been, I mean, basically now we sort of understand they were the ones organizing this in a sense, orchestrating this in a sense. Putting forward the legal theory that they would then expect activist judges, activist secretaries of state, activist municipal clerk judges, if we're going back to Illinois, to come out and say, oh, well, these legal scholars said it's a legitimate legal theory, so we have our backing in terms of carrying out our partisan hackery as we did. Those legal activists, those legal scholars, mentally challenged activists, Lawrence Tribe, Harvard professor, and former conservative judge, Lutig. I went back to watch one of their interviews, and I put together the highlights so that you don't have to go watch this. But now you can understand it in retrospect, what they were doing. They were putting forward a legal theory, legal scholars, activist legal scholars, either Dem activists or Never Trumper activists, putting together a legal theory, then going out, packaging it, selling it to their Mockingbird media, so the media would then legitimize their legal theory and create this vortex of judicial activism that is now going to work its way up, work its way down, work its way in to institutions and to court systems. And they're going to say, oh, well, we got 4 judges on the Colorado court who now believe our legal theory, our novel legal theory. We've got Secretary of State of Maine. She'll buy it. She can now sufficiently cover her activism in constitutional scholar legal theories. Listen to this, and I'll pause it as we go along. This was an interview they gave with, was it not Aaron Burnett? Is that too loud?
Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Casey Hunt.
Casey Hunt. It's an unfortunate name because, okay.
GOP frontrunner Donald Trump prepares to surrender to Fulton County Jail this Thursday or Friday. Legal scholars are raising a provocative new question. Is he even eligible to be elected president again?
While we persecute him in Georgia, and we've seen how that debacle has unfolded, it's like, it makes so much more sense going forward. No, going backwards, but we had to live it forwards. Oh, yeah. They had a novel RICO case out of Georgia. They had a novel 14th Amendment case that they sold to the media. Georgia is going down in flames. The only RICO corruption we are witnessing now is from the prosecutors in Georgia. And now, package that with this, and let's see what they have to say about it.
Joining me now is retired conservative federal judge Michael Ludig and constitutional law scholar Lawrence Tribe. We should be clear here, Donald Trump hasn't been charged directly with insurrection, rebellion, sedition, or treason. So can you explain why?
Let me stop there. Did you notice there was a very interesting word? There was a very interesting word in there.
Lawrence Tribe. We should be clear here. Donald Trump hasn't been charged directly with.
Charged directly? I'm sorry, hey, Casey. Well, that's a really unfortunate pause face there. I'm sorry. Is there a way to indirectly be charged with something? Oh, no, but by throwing the word directly, and it implies that indirectly he must be guilty of or charged on something. Two frauds. Yes, that's the unfortunate thing about the last name Hunt. It goes back to that joke. There was a UFC fighter, Aussie, amazing fighter. Last name was Hunt. I forget what his first name was. He hasn't been directly charged with insurrection, so he might be indirectly guilty of it somehow. But
Insurrection, rebellion, sedition, or treason. So can you explain why you believe he's disqualified from office?
They put this provision in for the very specific purpose of making sure that if any Secretary of State or any other official were to try to put someone on the ballot, then that official would have to decide by whatever process was appropriate.
That official would have to decide willy-nilly by whatever process is appropriate. Gee, legal scholar, constitutional expert Lawrence Tribe, what is that process? Well, I don't know. Let me just go dig around my butthole to see if I can pull something out of there to answer that question, Viva.
Whether the candidate is eligible to be president or is disqualified. As we have long believed, this language means exactly what it says, and it should be enforced in every state of the union.
Constitutional scholar just got his constitutional butt spanked 9-0. But don't worry, because there's a bit of a caveat in there. It says exactly what it says, and yet somehow this constitutional scholar told that he's wrong by 9 Supreme Court justices. This is a Harvard law, for those of you who know, Lawrence Tribe, Harvard law professor. Everyone there they're not going to ask for their money back because what they're paying for is networking and connections. But let's hear what conservative Judge Luttig has to say.
Luttig, I want to send this one to you. You're saying that Trump is, quote unquote, automatically disqualified from holding office, as you just explained. So what does that mean in practice? Does it
automatically disqualified? Done. Screw your democracy. You're the insurrectionist, and yet I'm acting like the insurrectionist. You don't get to run. Right to jail.
Mean that local elections officials can and should leave Donald Trump off the ballot in the primary or in the general election if he's the Republican nominee?
Can you imagine? Leave him off the ballot. Did you understand the language here? Just leave him off the ballot. They're not doing anything proactive like removing him from the ballot. They're just leaving him off the ballot because they've unilaterally, through whatever process they've dreamed up in their fantastically demented heads, decided he's ineligible. Self-executing.
Professor Tribe, as you know, is the preeminent constitutional scholar of our time.
Bullshit.
He has been studying not just the Constitution, but this 14th Amendment disqualification clause.
Is Luttig using a fake backdrop?
His entire professional career. I only began to think seriously about the 14th Amendment in Section 3 2 years ago.
Do you also see what's going on here now? This is the laundering of disinformation. At one point, I clipped it out, but at one point, Tribe says, well, Luttig is a very, very well-respected conservative judge, and he says this. Luttig now says, well, Lawrence Tribe is the constitutional scholar. He's been studying it forever. And so I originally didn't think much of this, but now I do because I'm relying on this constitutional scholar. And we're coming on with you, Casey Hunt, where you can put it on CNN and make it look like it's reality so that we can steer public opinion, change the laws if we have to, get the courts involved if we have to. My goodness, doesn't this sound exactly like that Time article describing how they fortified the 2020 elections? Kind of does, but let's hear what Luttig has to say. Maybe it gets more coherent. It doesn't.
A little over 2 years ago on January 6, 2021, that fateful day. In the past 2.5 years, Professor Tribe and I have privately discussed this matter, and which brings us today and to the article that we wrote in The Atlantic.
I want to bring that back. It's just a bizarre thing to have said.
6, 2021. That fateful day. In the past 2.5 years, Professor Tribe and I have privately discussed this matter.
In the past 2.5 years, Professor Tribe and I have discussed this matter. Privately. This sounds like a secret cabal. of well-funded, politically connected people who are working together to steer media coverage, control public perception, change the rules and regulations. Well, that's exactly what it sounds like. They say the quiet part out loud over and over. But it's so wild. Yes, we've been meeting privately for 2.5 years to strategize. How do we do this? Well, here's how we do it. We try to make a bullshit legal theory look like a legitimate one. Then we take it to CNN and propagandist outlets like MSNBC, sell it as an undeniable legal fact. And then when the Supreme Court comes down 9-0 and spanks our old shriveled bottoms, we then cry, corrupt court, we need to expand it. It's an amazing tactic.
Which brings us today and to the article that we wrote in the Atlantic. Section 3 is about as clear. Pristine clear as any provision in our Constitution.
And if 9 Supreme Court justices say otherwise, they're corrupt. We need to pack the court. We need to add 10 corrupt judges who then outnumber the 9 that are corrupt. There are people arguing this now already, but you know that's where they're going. It's clear, it's pristine, and any judge who says otherwise is a moron. And now we just got 9 Supreme Court justices who said, no, this is not right. And they're going to cry corruption of the courts.
As Professor Tribe and I have written, Section 3 is self-executing.
Here, say the line, Bart. Self-executing. And they got enough judges. I don't care if they're municipal judges. They got enough secretaries of state. They got enough members of the Colorado court to say, yeah, self-executing, yeah. Oh, yeah, now we get to say it. But we're relying on scholars, so don't blame us for being corrupt hacks. We're not the insurrectionists. We have a legitimate legal theory that I heard these two Jack and Innie say.
Himself or herself are obligated under the Constitution to determine whether Donald Trump qualifies to be put on the ballot.
Whether or not
they must
qualifies.
Determine themselves whether he is disqualified from being listed on the ballot by Section 3.
I saw someone say, how do they say this and keep a straight face? It's all for the greater good. Link to that tweet. Yeah, holy blood pressure, says Cab. No, but it's wild because they're just liars. In as much as it's possibly somehow tenable, they'll make the argument and they'll frame the argument so that it's an undeniable fact. Then they take that bullshit framing to crap propaganda outlets who pass it off as fact. And so I'm not saying low-level voters. I'm not saying low-level viewers. It's complicated stuff to begin with. You can make it more complicated and thus, confuse an otherwise undisputable fact, much like the way they're doing it. And you get these outlets to then spread it. Like, just visualize the way this looks if you're going to mentally graph this. You get 2 little players here, and they make a little book together. And then they pass it off to CNN. And then CNN just goes, psh, and casts the net of an undisputed fact, allegedly, over millions and millions of people who have no understanding of the Constitution, no understanding of the law, but they have been told that this is an incontrovertible fact. It's self-executing. And then they wake up this morning and find out that the Supreme Court, even with Ketanji Jackson Brown, even with Sotomayor, even with, who's the other one? I'm going to forget his name. Keegan? I want to say Kagan. 9-0. But that is just classic. Link one more time. It's classic. They're eating crow, and I'll make sure that they get a second helping of it today because it's astonishing. And I'm glad it ended up this way because I made some predictions, a lot of them, throughout this process. And a lot of my taunting and mockery of these constitutional scholars would have aged very badly if the Supreme Court had come back and said, no, they can keep Trump off the ballot. Of course, had that happened, I would have much bigger concerns for American society as a whole than just having been wrong in my prediction. The Dems are the fascists. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, Nick Levy. So before we head on over to Rumble, we're going to do it now. This is the link to Rumble. I'll give everyone the link to Locals. Oh, Devil Dog Mom, I just saw it now, says, Viva, there is a hearing on March 6th regarding merchant text messages with Bradley. Can you stream it? Please, longtime supporter Devil Dog Mom. Not only do you have to not ask me, When I got that tweet from Phil Holloway, who was on Friday, I was like, I don't know what I had scheduled for Wednesday, but cancel it. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Yes, Devil Dog Mom. I will be streaming it, and I will be streaming it voracious, not vociferously? What's the word for that? I'll be streaming it. Guaranteed, promise. Here's a link to Locals. We're going to get into the decision, or at least the highlights of the decision and the caveat over on Rumble. Then we're going to have Mrs. Fixit, who that's her Twitter name, coming on to talk about her Nevada run. Then we're going to go to Locals, and we're going to have our exclusive supporter interview chat discussion with one of our supporters, Scuba Jim. So stay tuned for that. But before I do that, I noticed I missed something right here. Here we go. Indirectly ate poutine with Viva. We indirect friends. No seize the day. We're direct friends. But indirectly, we've met in real life. But yes, there are a great many people who vicariously ate poutine with me through the Viva on the Streets in Ottawa. All right, so it says 3,530 people on YouTube. Let's say leave YouTube. You don't have to come. Come on over to Rumble, but then you're going to be adding a step. Leave YouTube. That's vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But come on over to Rumble. I'm going to get the Rumble rants before I leave. This is link to Rumble. Okay, I might have had too much caffeine today. It's possible. Link to Rumble. Good. The number, no, good. The number's at 3,457. It could have been 3,456. That would have satisfied my neuroses. While that number continues to drop and people make the migration over to the land of the free speech being Rumble, let me read all of the Rumble rants that we've got over here. The engaged few, good to see you again, sir. Or ma'am, whomever you are, the engaged, I don't know. Geez, that's hate speech. That might be hate speech if I've just misgendered you in Canada. Oh gosh. Engaged few, good to see you again. Get this out of here. As a West Virginian, that punk is lucky he didn't lose his teeth in these hills. Them's fighting words. True, but not if you're a politician, the engaged few. Not if you're a politician. It's like, freedom of speech is the freedom to tell the president to go F himself. You don't get to say them, well, them's fighting words as well, but respectfully submitted, I appreciate what you're saying. We Laxed in 3721 says, what the hell is their definition of, quote, conservative judges? These two idiots don't belong to us. No, I don't think, Lawrence Tribe does not describe himself as conservative. Chief Lutig does. Not Chief, I'm sorry, Judge Lutig. The engaged few, these two celebrated legal minds are great examples of why I refer to Mo's as, quote, chin sphincters. Arkansas crime attorney, sir, how are you doing? Man, Viva, you are doing great. You have 8,000 on Rumble watching. Also, I just got notification from Rumble. This show is happening. The notification is not good considering this started 40 minutes ago. Make sure that your notifications are turned on. Oh, no, what's amazing is 8,400 people, and it was 40-minute notice because I wasn't sure that I was going to go live today because Mondays is the day I cut clips from Sunday stream, turn it into audio, which, by the way, everybody, if you don't know, you can go get all of the Viva Barnes Law for the People Sunday streams on podcast, on Podbean, Stitcher, wherever the hell else. So I cut that, had breakfast with the missus, walked the dogs, but we did it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, because we've gone down substantially on YouTube, and this is it, we're ending on YouTube, or as I like to call it, CommieTube. And we're going to get into my highlights of the decision. It's an easy read, but it's also easy to read when you understood exactly where they were going to go with it. But I want to read not the dissent, but the, what's it called? There's a word for it. We'll get there. So we are ending on YouTube, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We just got one more super chat in, right in time. Fried Pie says, when they say threat to our democracy, they mean threat to the control we have over institutions of power. I'll say this, not unironically. They are exactly what they accuse others of being. They are the threat to democracy. And by they, I do mean the institutional power, not even necessarily only Democrats. But they're destroying democracy and trying to justify it as preserving democracy. They know damn well what they're doing. They're trying to lock up their adversaries. And then they argue that their adversaries can never get into power again because if they do, they're going to lock them up. They are guilty of what they are accusing their adversaries of doing. It's what Joseph Goebbels described as a propaganda tool, and they are it. I live in Commie, Colorado. The politics here suck, but the state is beautiful. No crap. Mile High City, mountains, Rocky Mountains, Fishing, brook trout. Oh my goodness, Colorado's beautiful. Politics ruins everything. Get one at vivafrei.com. Okay, now we're ending on YouTube. See you on Rumble or Locals. Peace out. Oh, I just opened another window instead of closing the window. Ending on YouTube.